What's up, everybody? Get your GPSs turned on because we're about to take a drive down memory lane on this special episode of Around the Paw. I'm Garrett Mitchell, along with Clifton Kennedy tonight, and we have a very special guest, former Clemson Tight-end and two-time national champion Milan Richard, joining us on this episode. So kick back, relax, turn the volume up, and enjoy this episode of Around the Paw.
Getting that stuff till you hearing that sound.
All right. Well, first and foremost, Milan, welcome to the show, man. It is an absolute pleasure to have you tonight. And I tell you what, I'm just glad that Clifton was able to get you on here because this is an absolute treat for us and for everybody that's going to be watching as well. So welcome in. We appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate y'all for having me. It's always fun to kind of do things like this. So I'm excited about it.
Well, what we're going to kind of do is we're just going to go back down memory lane, like I said, and we're going to talk about your journey as a Clemson Tiger. And, of course, you were on the teams that everybody, at least that's my age. I wasn't alive in 1981. So, the two national championships, the 2016 and 18 teams have been the high water mark of my life as a Clemson fan. So we're going to talk about all of that. But first, tell us a little bit about your journey to Clemson and your recruiting story as a high school player and how how Clemson first came onto your radar screen.
Yeah, so man, my recruitment was crazy. It was really fun. I really enjoyed recruiting, honestly. It was a blast and going to different schools and meeting people, and everybody wants you, right? And so it's nice to be wanted. And so it was fun. It was a blast traveling around and spending a lot of time with my parents, just having different conversations about different schools. And then at the end, it gets really, really serious, and it's like, all right, where do you want to go? But Clemson, I really kind of heard about Clemson kind of through the grapevine. I was a Georgia kid with my background and my parents' history and my family history and all of that. So Georgia was really where I wanted to go. Honestly, and they recruited me, but I think they thought that I was kind of automatically coming there because of my history. And so it was just different. I didn't necessarily feel the way that I felt when I went to Clemson. And so I ended up going to a camp at Clemson, and then Coach Scott came to my school. Jeff Scott was the receivers coach at the time. Chad Morris was still offensive coordinator. And so went to – where did I go first? I think I actually went to the South Carolina game. South Carolina Clemson was my first game. And that was crazy. I mean, it was just, the environment was insane and unlike anything I had ever been in. And so I was kind of hooked immediately. And then I think that following like Tuesday or Wednesday, Jeff Scott came to see me at school. And shortly after that, I ended up getting an offer from Clemson. And that was pretty much it. I mean, I knew pretty early that I wanted to go to Clemson, but I kind of let the recruiting process play out. And but in my heart, I knew after that night in the Valley that I kind of wanted to be a Tiger.
Yeah, that's crazy. So tell me a little bit about like what it's like being a player under Dabo and how, when you said Jeff Scott is the one that recruited you because he was the receivers coach, but where did Dabo come in? Because he was a receivers coach too at one point.
Yeah, so he was heavily involved. I mean, I think he did an in-home visit with Coach Morris and Coach Pearman, and so he also came to my school. So he was heavily involved in my recruitment. But playing for Sweeney, man, I mean it's exactly what you see on TV. It's exactly what you hear in the media. I mean, he is who he says he is, and he is who he portrays himself to be. And so, I mean, I could pick up the phone right now and call, and he'd probably answer or shoot me a text or call me back tomorrow. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. I mean, I'm still local, and I have no doubt in my mind I could get in my car and drive to his house and knock on the door, and Kathleen's gonna let me in. Like that's just the kind of people they are. That's the kind of family that they are. And so being an only child, for me, the family aspect of how he kind of runs his program was huge to me in my recruitment.
Yeah, and do you feel like now, of course, when you played, the transfer portal wasn't really as much of a thing as it is now. NIL still hadn't really come along, but even in that landscape of college football today, I think when you look at the turnover on rosters around the country, Clemson still probably has less turnover in regards to the portal than most of the major programs do. And do you feel like it's that family atmosphere that you talked about, and just the welcomeness that recruits and players feel at Clemson that keeps players there and keeps them there for 4 or 5 or heck, we just saw Xavier Thomas play his 6th season this last year. So
That's crazy, dude.
how much do you think that's a part of the loyalty that players have to Clemson?
I think that has a lot to do with it, honestly. But I also think, I heard so much in the recruitment process from Coach Scott and other coaches about recruiting Clemson guys and Clemson men. And, I think the characteristics of who they're looking for in the person outweigh the transfer portal. Yeah. And I mean, I know guys are going to leave now. That's just the landscape of where we are now in college football and college athletics. When you start talking about NIL and the transfer portal and the opportunity to make money, I mean, guys are obviously going to leave for opportunities. But I think at the core of who we are as, Clemson Tigers, we're recruiting the characteristics of that type of kid that has all of the stuff you mentioned, that has, some loyalty, that understands family, that understands different values and morals. And so I think it's a big testament to our staff. And I really think it's a big testament to Coach Sweeney and just the type of young man that he's after, much less the athlete. Because, I mean, even when I was at Clemson, there were plenty of guys that would come through and they would ask us, like, after recruiting visits. And sometimes, we'd be like, we don't really think he's a Clemson guy. Like, yeah, he's a 5-star and he runs 4.3 and he's got 50 offers, but I don't know how well he's going to fit in our locker room. And so that was something that he was always very cautious of when recruiting. So
you were just talking about like asking if different guys were Clemson guys. And with this latest class, and I know you said you weren't very up on all of that, but like you see guys recruiting, you see players recruiting other players to come to Clemson, and they're always tweeting at them and doing all this stuff. Back then, was it the same type of deal? Like were players recruiting other players to come to Clemson?
Yeah, it was definitely like that. Especially, it wasn't so much from the current players, from guys that were currently on the team trying to constantly have conversations with recruits. It was more so the guys that were already committed in your class. So, I'm Taj Boyd hosted me, Sammy Watkins hosted me. I spent time with a bunch of different guys on that 2013 team. And yeah, I mean, I kept in conversation with them here and there. We text here and there, but it was really the guys that were already committed in my class that were like, hey, you need to come to Clemson. We got this going on. We got that going on. And it's so funny because after I committed, I was doing the same thing. I was talking to the Richard Yergin and Trey Quinn is a receiver that we were looking at. He's out of Louisiana. He ended up going to LSU and transferred to SMU and played in the league a little while. I don't know if he's still in the league a lot, but I was after Trey Quinn. Just different guys that I can remember in my class that I wanted to come be a part of what we had going on at Clemson. And so, yeah, definitely to answer your question, there's a lot of the behind the scenes calling and texting going on that nobody ever sees.
And Milan, your first year at Clemson, you come into a program that really over the previous 5 or 6 years had really begun to come into its own in terms of success on a national scale. 2012, of course, the bowl victory over LSU. The next year, Ohio State in the Orange Bowl. and you'd had a bunch of those elite guys like your Sammy Watkins, your Newt Hopkins, who had laid the framework for the program. Then you come in 2015, you've got a team that's led by Deshaun Watson at quarterback. You've got guys like Artavis Scott and Sharon Peak and all those guys. Talk about that first season. Obviously, 2015 was the first national championship appearance, and that was the program that you walked into, that you came into. So what was that first season with the team like for you in terms of that ride all the way through to the national championship game, getting that first taste of that?
Yeah, so my first year was actually the Russell Athletic Bowl. So it was the year before that you're talking about. But I redshirted. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I redshirted, so I didn't play a whole lot. But that 2015 year, man, that's really when everything changed for us. Because I think, you hear so much about Alabama and just kind of the giants and the Mount Rushmores of college football, right? The Notre Dames, the Ohio State, and just those big, like, pedigree type programs that are just supposed to be there at the end of the year. And, to be honest with you, Clemson wasn't one of those schools. Yeah. And so, when we got there in 15, and even though we lost, mentally and emotionally, we gained and we won a whole lot because of the way we lost that game. So our mentality was like, really, they messed up because they let us know that we kind of belong on this stage now. Yeah. And so I think losing that game really set up that run that we went on because it changed our mentality and just our focus. I mean, it totally revamped, I think, who we were as a program. And I think there's, you get in those heavyweight fights like that. And it's because when you say it all the time, I mean, it's program on program. It's strength staff on strength staff. It's nutrition on nutrition. I mean, it's all of it. It's not just what happens that night. And so I think being able to come out of that game and it being as close and as back and forth as it was, it let us know as a program that, hey, not only, can we play with these caliber of programs, but we belong on this stage too. And so that run was set up, I think, by us losing that night for sure.
Yeah. So what was it like to have? Because I've met Taj Boyd, I know him personally. I had a couple conversations, or I met him actually at Lakeside Lodge when he was doing that whole deal, and then we got to know each other. But what is it like? Like, is you guys' friendship like? And what, like you said, he kind of reached out. Didn't you say he kind of reached out to you? And when you were being recruited, like,
yeah, man, Taj was my first.
Like what's that dynamic like?
Taj was my first like overnight visit. And so we got to know each other well. I mean, I know his mom now. And so our relationship has been good. We kind of check on each other from time to time. And he was very much of a kind of a big brother type role. And it was really, I kind of hated it because he was leaving, as I was coming in. So I didn't get a chance to play with him. But in that recruitment process, if I was in Clemson, he was definitely one of the guys I was calling and trying to see or stay on his couch or whatever it was going to be that weekend, and so he knows my parents. I mean, he's met my parents. And like I said, I know his mom well. And so very much of kind of a big brother role, I would say.
Uh-oh. Did he freeze? I think he might have
maybe.
froze. Let me pause it because you can pause this for a minute. Let me pause it.
Oh, I think he's coming back.
Oh, you're back? Are you back? Okay.
Yeah, we're all back.
Okay, I'll just cut that out. Whatever just happened, I'll cut it out.
That out. Like he could just cut all
that's what he said.
Yeah, that's what post editing does great.
That's awesome.
All right, go for it, Garrett.
Right. So now I want to ask you this, and this is about a specific game, and I've always wanted to hear an in-depth perspective from a Clemson player who played in it, who experienced that night. Obviously, the shirt I'm wearing tonight, BYOG.
Man, what a great game, man.
Everybody remembers the Hurricane game against Notre Dame in 2015. I can honestly say I was 2 hours away from home watching at a friend's house, and I felt like I had my life in my own hands trying to drive home. A 2-hour drive took me 5 hours that night. So, but it was a happy 5 hours. I just want to hear the perspective of somebody who was there, who was a part of that game. What was that night like, and what were the conditions like that night? If it was as bad as it looked on television, it had to be crazy.
Man, it's kind of funny because, like, as a little kid, you play video games and you're always like changing the weather to play in the snow or to play, in these crazy conditions. And it just seems so crazy. You can't throw a pass and this, that, and the other. And so to do it in real life, to be honest, I don't think it was as fun as it was doing it on a video game. And so it was crazy, man. But I think we knew it was going to be raining. We kind of mentally, we were kind of getting prepared for that all week. Of course, looking at the weather, and our coaching staff was doing a great job of letting us know, like, hey, like it's going to be rain, not just a little bit, like it's going to be a monsoon. And so I think mentally we were kind of prepared for it. And then I think what really did it for us is when we got in the stadium and we saw that, like, our fans were still there and they were still like, no, we're playing a football game, like we're here. I think for us that just kind of took it to another level. Like, all right, like if they're showing up, like we got to play. We can't be upset about the rain. But it was coming down, man. It was honestly terrible. You couldn't really see that far in front of you looking out of a helmet. And I think everybody changed uniforms at halftime. I can remember changing shoes and pants and socks. And I mean, because everything was just dripping wet. But what a night in the Valley, man. That's probably one of the loudest games that I had at Clemson. That game and the when Lamar Jackson in Louisville came to Clemson and Marcus Edmond tackles him at like the 3-yard line, and everybody.
It's the loudest game I've ever been to. I was there.
Yeah.
I was 20 rows up behind the Clemson bench, unequivocally, and I've been to a lot of games. I think the first 2 plays of that ball game, when the decibel level was so loud that Louisville false started on the first 2 plays. You could feel the facade of the stadium moving. You could feel it rock underneath you. It's the loudest sporting event I've ever been to. Probably the loudest I will ever be to.
Yeah, I think those 2 are probably at the top of the list for me. Those 2 are pretty crazy for sure.
How about that 2015? Were you there for the 2015 Miami game?
2005, man.
Oh, 2005. My bad. I don't know why.
You went back in time.
I went back in the Wayback Machine, man. That shows my age.
We played Miami. I'll tell you, this is funny. This is a funny story. So we played Miami. I don't know what year it was. In Miami, they had Al Golden as their head coach.
That was 15, I believe.
And what was the score, like 53-0?
58-0 was the final.
58. Okay, yeah. And so before the game, they're like, we're trying to go on the field to warm up. I don't know how many people know about this story. And so, but their team is like in front of our tunnel, like trying to start all this back and forth. And so our coaching staff is like absolutely livid. And so we get into the game and we start scoring, and Sweeney's upset. So he's like, no, like we're going to score the whole game. And so we just kept scoring. And then it was a 12 o'clock game. I never forget this. It was a 12 o'clock game. So we fly back. It's like, I don't know. It's like 5 o'clock or whatever. We land. It's probably like 5, 6 o'clock. We land in Greenville, and we're on the bus back to Clemson, and guys are looking at their phone and this, that, and the other. And then we find out, we're like, wow, they fired their coach. And so then like Sweeney gets word of, because he's not a big social media guy. So he always rides on the defensive bus. And so like on offensive bus, we're texting guys on the defensive bus, like, hey, like take your phone to Sweeney and like let him see what we're looking at. Like they fired their coach. So we were like, dang, man, like you got the poor guy fired. Like just because you got mad before the game, you didn't want to quit scoring.
That's
I mean, it was pretty funny, man. We were like, wow, they just fired their whole staff before we could even land back in Greenville after a game.
Yeah,
I remember that I was at Buffalo Wild Wings watching with my best friend in Greenville that afternoon, and I tell you what, we were just I think we ate a wing for every point, every touchdown, and I'm just like, you know what, my God, I'm gonna have to have somebody wheel me out of here because we just won't stop scoring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was crazy. That was a crazy game. What was it? So what was it like playing? I know you didn't play defense, but what was it like having a teammate like Ben Boulware?
That's so funny that you say that, man. I talked to Ben this morning. That's so funny that you say that. He sent me a text this morning about some business stuff, and we ended up on the phone for about 20 minutes. So we're going to get together next week. But Ben's a great guy, man. He's kind of, he's that bulldoggy mentality, that one more guy. I'll tell you a funny story too. This is what year did we open at Auburn? I don't know what year that was. I think it was after the first national championship.
Yeah.
It might have been the same year we won the first one. But anyway, one year we opened at Auburn. And so the off-season program, you could kind of tell like just the vibe around the off-season kind of depended on who we were opening with. Like as we got closer, everybody was just a little bit more locked in if we were opening with a Georgia or Auburn or somebody of that caliber. And so we're opening with Auburn one year, and I can remember we're running 110s in the indoor, and we've hit the number for our conditioning test. And Ben's like, we can run one more. And everybody's looking at him like, dude, like, why are you like, everything's okay. Everybody made it. Like we all passed. Like, why are you trying to? So we end up running like 5 or 6 more 110s. And I can remember we get in the locker room and everybody's looking at him like, are you okay? Like that was so unnecessary. We didn't need to, but he was one of the older guys on that team. And so he had been in those moments already, and he knew what it took to compete at that kind of level. And he had a really good pulse of where our team was, and being a leader. When I kind of grew into that role, a year later or whatever it was, I understood then kind of where he was coming from. But Ben was a great guy, man. Still friends today. We still try to get together every once in a while. And so he's a brother to me, man. I love Ben to death.
All right, now I want to talk to you about, I'm going to jump ahead to 2016 now. And we talked earlier about how close the team got in 2015, losing to Alabama in the national championship game by 5 points. And you channeled the experience and the knowledge that you gained from that run into the 2016 season. The vast majority of that team had returned. But I want to jump ahead and, first, I want to talk about just that regular season in 2016 was, at least from my perspective, and I'm sure I can speak for Cliff as well as a fan, was probably one of the most heart-stopping regular seasons that I've ever experienced. When you've got just some games that jump out: North Carolina State and Kyle Bambard missing a 33-yard straight down the pipe field goal that you get to overtime. You had the Louisville game we talked about earlier, the home loss to Pittsburgh, just games that.
Oh man,
we're just they're white knuckle, and I mean fans were on the edge of their seat the entire season. It never seemed like anything came easy. So first of all, what was that season like? What was that roller coaster ride like? And some of those Saturdays where you just had to sweat it out in the final seconds.
It's funny because our parents, like players' parents, would always say like, can y'all just make 1 week easy where we can like come to a game and not be worried? They used to tell us that all the time as parents. So now as a fan, I really understand where you're coming from. But that year was special, man. We were just so locked in from, I mean, really after that, like I said, the 2015 game and going into winter workouts and mat drills and getting into the summer or the spring and the summer. And I mean, every stage of the way, I feel like we were just so focused and so locked in as a team. But I think we needed all the bumps in the road. I think we needed all the tough games. I think we needed all the close calls. I hate to say we needed the loss at home to Pitt, but I think it came at a really pivotal point in our season that year. And I think it was a big attention getter. Like, hey, don't forget, like, just because you were there last year and just because y'all should win on paper, you can still lose. And so I think it was a good attention getter for us. And I don't know, man, I think that's it. But I think when you look at how we finished the year with that slugfest in Tampa, I mean, we needed every single bit of that journey along the way to be prepared for that kind of a heavyweight fight, because that's what it is. I mean, people don't understand how hard it is to play Alabama year after year with everything on the line. I mean, that's an NFL caliber game. I mean, that is just mentally and physically, there's no way I can really explain it to somebody who has not been in that moment.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, and sorry, Cliff, I'm just gonna finish out this little. I've got a few questions about. We're gonna jump into the playoff run now, and it's funny you joke about the parent. Your parents were saying, "Hey, can you make any week easy?" Well, you get to the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State out in Phoenix, and look, if fans and parents, if they wanted a game that was never in doubt or less dramatic, well, you had that against Ohio State and maybe against the most unlikely team to just blow out like that. But it seemed like that team, from my perspective anyway, once you beat Ohio State 31-0, and that game was never close, it seemed like you beat them about as badly on both sides of the ball as a team can be beat. It just, I felt like after that game, I'm like, we're not losing the national championship game again. I felt like as a team, you guys were so locked in that it was just meant to be that year at that point.
Yeah, we were, I think if I remember correctly too, we were still pretty healthy. And so that's another thing, playing 15 games a year, I mean, it's almost impossible. And they want to change the playoffs and play all these games. And I'm like, guys, y'all are like, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think we were really healthy going into that game. I don't think we had a lot of guys out. And usually when you get to that stage of the year, you're pretty banged up and you're playing some guys that don't usually play a whole lot. And so that was definitely a testament to our offseason and our strength and conditioning program and our recovery and all that. But that game was special, man. I think it definitely set the stage for the national championship game. And we wanted that one bad. There had been a lot of going back and forth kind of with Ohio State and a lot of internet talk before that game. I can remember that. And I had some close friends on that team. Raekwon McMillan was their middle linebacker. He was from Hinesville, Georgia. So him and I grew up about 30 minutes apart. We were close. I was trying to get him at Clemson, man. He looked at Clemson hard, and he ended up going to Ohio State. So we had a little friendly thing going on there. But we wanted that game bad. And I think the real reason that we win that game the way we did is we were just healthy. We were healthy and we were focused. And when you got a healthy team and you go execute, that's usually what happens that late in the year.
And then the national championship.
I think the funny part.
Go ahead, Claire. I'm sorry, buddy.
I was going to say, I think the funny part, the next season, the band put 31-0 on the field. I thought that was great. I thought it was great.
So you win. You beat Ohio State 31-0, but then you get to the national championship game against Alabama, and then you look up at the scoreboard. It's early in the second quarter, and you're down 14-0. Bo Scarborough had had 2 long touchdown runs for Alabama.
Another good buddy of mine, man.
Yeah, so you get there and all of a sudden you look up and you're down 14-0. Was there ever a oh God, here we go again type feeling, or did that team ever feel like at any point that they weren't going to come back in that game?
No, we were never out of that game. We knew offensively. I can remember early we were trying to find some things. You hear coaches all the time saying, we just kind of had to find some things. We had to settle in, or they use several words to say it. But I think we had to calm down a little bit. I think our nerves were there, and then we had to settle in a little bit. And then I think offensively, we found some things offensively that would work well versus what they were doing. And then it was like, okay, how many ways can we run these 7 or 8 plays that are really good? How many ways can we run it and make it look different? And so it's a huge chess match when you get in those type of games with the coordinators. We used to kind of laugh and say, man, we're just the pawns and y'all sit in the box and y'all call all the shots, because that's kind of how it is. The coordinators are battling and we got to make it happen on the field. But it's a big chess match when you get at that level. And so we knew that we were never out of it. We knew that eventually we had answers. We just had to find what they were going to be that night.
And where did that game turn? It really seemed like everything began to click with the screen pass to Deion King. When you're down 14-0, you hadn't been able to get any chunk plays offensively. Then all of a sudden, bam, you get the long screen pass to Deion, and that drive resulted in a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's a 14-7 game, and then everything just seemed to open up from that point. But from your perspective, where did that game turn?
I think that's a good play in the game, and then I believe it might have been Ray McLeod. I don't know if it was a punt or a kickoff that we had a really good return, and it set up that drive. And I mean, that was critical in that game. And so there are a lot of key moments in that game that I think changed the flow. And anytime you're in those kind of games, it's so much about momentum. And so I think we kind of got hot at the right time in that game amongst all the momentum shifts. But that play was definitely a spark for us. I can remember us being on the sideline saying, man, we just need one spark. And we kind of hit that play, and it opened some things up because then they really had to protect the perimeter. And I think before that, they weren't really protecting the perimeter a whole lot, if I remember correctly. So, but that screen and that return, I believe it was Ray, that return was critical for us because it gave us great field position going into that drive.
Yeah, then, all right, let's jump to the fourth quarter. You've battled back all game, and finally Wayne Gallman, he scores to give you the lead, your first lead of the ball game with a little over a little over 4 minutes to play. And then you watch Alabama go down the field. Everybody remembers Jalen Hurts scrambling for the touchdown, but they left you 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So what was the mindset before that final drive? And then on top of that, you had the return out to the 32-yard line, which set you up in pretty good field position. So when Jalen Hurts scored that touchdown, was it just kind of a collective thought of, oh, yeah, they messed up. They left us too much time, so we're going to go down and win this?
That's exactly what it was. I can remember sitting next to guys we're watching on the screen in the offensive huddle, and we all kind of looked around. Everybody was like, too much time. We were like, yeah, we know, too much time. I mean, we practiced it. I think it was every Wednesday. We put 1:30 on the clock, the last period of practice, and the ball would be at like the 30 or the 25, and we'd have to go score against the best defense in the country. And so I think that's what everybody said. I mean, I can remember Sweeney coming over and saying, hey, this is Wednesday practice all over again. But they gave you 30 more seconds. and so, we knew we had time, and we kind of knew we practiced that so much situationally. We kind of knew the plays that were coming, and we had a really good scout report that game. So we knew kind of what we were going to be running. And that, like I said, that return was critical. I mean, that was the kickstart to that drive.
Yeah, and so many big plays on that final drive too. The two long passes to Mike Williams, or the one long pass to Mike Williams. Well, it was the second jump ball that he had caught in that game, where he just took it over the top of the defender, and that really got that drive going early on. Then Jordan Leggett with a huge catch down to the 9-yard line. The pass interference against Mike Williams in the end zone, and that puts you at the 2-yard line. So you're at the 2-yard line with 6 seconds to play. Now, conventional wisdom says a lot of teams would kick the ball right there, just go to overtime, because you don't want to risk, if your quarterback has to scramble, do you run out of time and you don't leave yourself time to kick it on the next play? But was there ever a doubt that you were going to run a play and go for the win from the 2-yard line with 6 seconds left? And was the confidence that you could get that play off, and if it didn't work, you still would have time to kick it?
I believe so. Like I said, scouting wise, we knew inside of the 10 or right around the 5-yard line, going in, that defensively they were like 98% man-to-man all year. I mean, you look at 14 games, and so you look at how many times they're inside of the 10-yard line, that's a lot. And it averaged out to be about 98% of the time. And so when you have those kind of statistics, and as a play caller, we called a man-to-man beater, and we knew it was going to be there. And I can remember standing on the sideline, and I was kind of behind, so I was watching the play from behind. And as soon as we snapped the ball, I knew. I said, we're there in man. And as soon as Hunter breaks out, and I knew before Deshaun threw the ball, I said, it's over. We're about to score. And I think our coaches knew too, because on the headsets, I could see like our coaches' faces before we even snapped the ball. Like everybody was thinking the same thing, because we all knew what the play call was. All we had to do was make a throw and make a catch, and we knew that we were going to win. And so, but yeah, man, I mean, we went with the odds, and it paid off for us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a couple buddies of mine who are Alabama fans, and to this day, they will still tell me that it was a pick play, that it was offensive pass interference. And you know, my only response to them almost 7 years later is roll tears.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna steal that. I gotta use that on somebody. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's about how you run it, man. You gotta bump into the guy just right.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Absolutely. Look, if anything, it was defensive pass interference. They just tackled Artavis. I mean,
yeah.
If you're gonna call anything, it was on the defense.
Yeah.
Tay doesn't get enough credit, man. I mean, I know Deshaun threw it and Hunter caught it, but without Tay being in the right spot and doing it right, I mean, we don't win that game. So he needs as much credit as everybody else.
Yeah. So
now, Cliff, come on back in, man. I've hijacked it from you long enough.
I know
buddy.
you hijacked this
It's
interview.
your turn now.
No, I got a few questions. Just well, first one is what was it like to play with Trevor Lawrence? Because you got to play with him his freshman year, right?
Yeah.
In that national title game.
Yeah, Trevor's a really good guy, man. He came in and you know, it's so funny. A lot of people ask me about this, and I kind of tell this story a lot. We were you know, after that game, the national championship game, everybody left. I mean, Deshaun's gone, Mike's gone, Jordan's gone, Wayne's gone. We lose a couple offensive linemen. And that next season, that's my first year starting. That's Kelly's first year starting. That's a couple offensive linemen. That's a
Everybody
couple new
forgets about
receivers.
Kelly.
And yeah, man. And so, I mean, like all of us kind of grew up together, you know, and we all kind of moved into those starting jobs together, and we all kind of took leadership and ownership of the offense together at one time. And then the next year, Trevor shows up. And so, you know, as an offense, we're kind of like, no, like we're kind of dug in on what we got going on. You know, we lost Alabama, and yeah, but we had a really good year, and, you know, we're dug in on going back with this same group. And so it was difficult when he first got there, because you could just kind of see that our team was about to split, you know, and so but I think he handled it perfectly from his seat. And I think the way he handled it allowed us as an offense to really get behind him and let him kind of take the keys to the offense. I mean, he came in and didn't really say a whole lot and just kind of practiced and worked hard and made the throws, and he let his play talk. And eventually the coaching staff said, hey, you know, we're going to make a transition. And players, I think some of us were on board and some of us weren't. And eventually we kind of got it together. But I remember the week that Sweeney kind of told us we were going to make that decision, and we were like, man, we desperately need to play a football game, because I felt like our locker room was about to explode. We were all, half of us were Team Kelly and half of us were Team Trevor, and we were like, we just need to go play so we can kind of get this behind us. So, but Trevor's a great guy, man. I'm happy he's having some success in the league, and I wish him all the best for sure.
You think he's got a chance to win Super Bowl?
You know, I don't know, man. The NFL's so crazy. It's hard to say. I think he is definitely a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. But when you talk about all the supporting cast, you know, I just don't know. There's too much that goes into it. People way smarter than me are making those predictions. You need Stephen A. Smith and some of those guys to weigh in. But just off of him and the type of leader that he is, and his ability as a quarterback, 100%, yes. I think he's got everything it takes. But as far as the Jaguars and everything they have going on, I have no clue if they're the right team or not.
Yeah, I understand that. And I got one more question, and I don't know. A lot of people might know this, but what's it like having Herschel Walker as your uncle?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and I kind of ask everybody. I'm like, well, do you have any uncles? And they say, yeah, I got some uncles. My uncle so and so. And I'm like, well, it's just like that. I see him on the holidays. I call him. We talk, and so
Yeah.
it's been great, man. I mean, when I was playing, or really when I was young, and it was like, okay, you may have a shot to play football, and I never really felt any pressure from him about anything. And my mom and dad both ran track at Georgia as well. And so coming from kind of a family of athletes, I never really felt any pressure from my family. I was just been super blessed to have the family that I have that just kind of allowed me to create my own path, even with my college selection of what school I wanted to go to. But he's been great. I mean, we talk ball some, but a lot of times he wanted to know about school a whole lot. And now he wants to know about how I'm doing and everything that I've got going on now. And so, but it was fun. We kind of go back and forth a little bit with Clemson, Georgia stuff every once in a while. But it's been fun, man. It was great to have him as a resource when I was in college to say, hey, I got this going on off the field. How do you handle that? Or I got this going on in the film room. So it was great to have him as a sounding board. But we really didn't talk football a whole lot. He was just kind of like your average uncle, to be honest.
So speaking of going back and forth with him about Clemson, Georgia, what you think about that first game of the year next year?
Man, I got to find out who I'm getting tickets from. That's my first thing. I got a few buddies I need to call to find out if we're going. But I don't know. It's gonna be good. Kirby Smart, man. Kirby Smart. They got a heck of a program, and he's a good coach. And I think they got some guys coming back. I know their quarterback's coming back, and but I think we're gonna have a good team too. I mean, I think we're gonna be in the running this year, and I know the light's not necessarily on us right now, but that's kind of how we like it. That's kind of how we've always done things at Clemson. And so
that's how Dabo likes it, right?
Yeah, man, we like the calmness, and so it's gonna be interesting though. Hopefully I'm in Atlanta. Hopefully I can swindle some tickets.
I know I'm gonna be in Atlanta.
So my first game was in Athens.
Yeah,
my redshirt year.
Cliff and I are already scheming, man. But we're not going to miss that.
Maybe I need to talk to y'all some more. Maybe we need to get together.
Yeah. Well, so tell us a little bit about.
Well, we'll put the plan in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on right now and like what you're doing. I know you're in Anderson and working. Like, aren't you wanting to own your own Chick-fil-A? I think we talked about that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, man. So I'm currently in the process with Chick-fil-A to become an operator. And so I've been working in Anderson with John Holmes for July will be 5 years for me now with John. And so in the process to become an operator. And for me, I don't know how much y'all know about Chick-fil-A, but I'm super passionate about the platform to impact other people. And that's something that I found through playing football, when I was playing, and especially like early on in high school when I started getting national attention and I started having, little kids come up to me when I was out at the mall with my friends saying they knew who I was and this, that, and the other. And I quickly realized that, okay, this is rapidly becoming bigger than myself. And so at a very young age, I realized that I had a platform to uniquely impact other people. And it was something that I was really passionate about. And then my dad is a business owner. And so my dad being a business owner and that passion to impact people kind of led me to Chick-fil-A. And I had a family friend who was an operator while I was in college. And he was like, you really should think about Chick-fil-A, I think. And I was like, man, I'm playing football. I ain't thinking about Chick-fil-A. Like, I'm not doing that. And so we go to the support center, our home office in Atlanta one year. I think it was my junior year of college, and started to learn a little bit about the history of Chick-fil-A and just everything that they were really about, the Cathy family and all of that. And then I met John through him, and one thing just kind of led to another. And fast forward, almost 5 years, and I'm in a position to hopefully one day become a Chick-fil-A operator if I can get through the process. So that's what I've been doing, man. Still here in Anderson. I live in Pendleton. And so drive to Anderson every day to work. And every once in a while I get back over to Tiger Town.
I don't know if I've told you this just from seeing you down there at that Chick-fil-A, but I'm a delivery driver at the Chick. Yeah, we talked about that. I'm a delivery driver for
Yeah.
Audrey. At,
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
yeah, so I know a little bit about Chick-fil-A. Not as much as you.
There you go. There you go, man. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, well, what do you? How much NIL stuff do y'all talk? Y'all talk a lot of NIL stuff with guys?
We haven't really talked about that. I mean, we haven't really talked about it because I don't really know that much about it. But I'm all about talking about it to learn more about it.
I just
How
didn't
much do you know about it?
Not a whole lot. I know I did a lot of stuff for free, to be honest with you, when I was playing, and I did a lot of stuff just because. I don't know, man. I think it's slowly going to hurt college football. I think it's already started a little bit, and I haven't been, super vocal about it. I talk to, my parents and my close circle of friends and former guys that I played with, and I think it should be tied around graduation. Do I think they should be paid? Absolutely, because guys work too hard and everybody involved makes money except the guys that are doing all the work. And so I think they should be paid, but I think I would love to see it tied around graduation, because then what happens is I think you have less guys transferring because they're actually concerned about their education. And so if you tie it around graduation and say, all right, here's, whatever amount we want it to be, and put it in a trust or something and give it to guys after they graduate. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, go start your business, or go start whatever it is, go start your life. And here's a little bit of money to go do that with. But when you just kind of open it up like they have it, I think they've kind of created the Wild Wild West, where now as a recruit, I no longer, and I value education. I mean, I've got 2 degrees from Clemson, but I no longer look at it now as an opportunity to get my education. I look at it as an opportunity to make as much money as possible. I'm looking at it saying, all right, I've got a 5-year window to maximize my name to make as much money as possible. So every year, who's going to be the highest bidder? Which school is it going to be? And if this school is more than the school that I'm at, then I'm in the transfer portal and I'm gone. And you can leave college now with almost $1 million in the bank. Nobody's concerned about going to class to get a degree.
Nope. What you think, Garrett?
Yeah, and I think in a sense, I've always been of the mindset as well that I do think that there needed to be some compensation for players. And Milan, you brought up a great point, and it's simply because you guys are the ones out there who are working hard and going out there on the field and helping the university make millions and millions of dollars. And for you guys, I mean, it's essentially a full-time job between football and class and everything from an academic standpoint. You really don't have a chance to go out and make extra money, even for, the necessities of living that even other students might have. So, but I think I agree with you in a sense. I think there needs to be some sort of balance there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the solution is. And I don't think it's a simple solution, but I agree with your point. I think there needs to be some mitigation that's put in place where players can get the compensation that they've earned, but at the same time, there's incentive to still be not bought out by the highest bidder, probably is the best way to put it, that they can still be loyal to the institution that first drew them there and that they committed to. So I think if you can find the balance between those two, then I think college football is going to be in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, so as we get ready to wrap up the show tonight, Milan, I do want to ask you, when you sit back now and you look back over your career at Clemson, going all the way back as a high school recruit to your final year, all of the playoff appearances, 2 national championships, when you sit back now and you just take stock of what you and your teammates were able to accomplish and you look at your legacy, what's the biggest thing that you take away from your time at Clemson?
Oh, man, what a loaded question. It's really hard, man, when you put it like that. I mean, we had such a great run at Clemson. I mean, 2 national championships, 4 ACCs, 50-something wins. 2 degrees. There was just – the list just goes on and on of accomplishments for me personally and for that group of guys. But I think for me, it's all about the relationships. You know, I'd trade the rings, and I don't know if I'd trade the wins. I'd trade the rings, and I'd trade probably some of the personal accolades for the relationships, man. I mean, just to be able to have that conversation with Ben Boulware this morning, 5, 6, 7 years after we left Clemson, and it's just like we're still running sprints on the field, or it's just like we're still sitting in the locker room. I mean, Kendall Joseph is probably one of my best friends. We were roommates, and I mean, Kendall was definitely one of my best friends at Clemson. Adam Choice is another guy I'm still really close with, and so just to be able to pick up the phone. I got a funny
story about Adam. So
yeah, just to be able to pick up the phone and call him every day, man. That means more to me than a lot of that stuff that's written on paper.
Yeah, you talk about Adam Choice. So there was a baseball player at Clemson, and he was really good friends with Adam. And I actually have Adam's gray book bag with the tiger paw on it.
Wow.
Yeah. They started this company started their own
I know what you're talking about. Where you get the guys were doing that, and they were like, yeah, I'm selling this, I'm selling that.
I created that website. Yeah. I designed that website.
Yeah, I remember guys talking about that.
Yeah, like that was me. I designed that website.
Wow, man.
Well, that wasn't my company. Stuff. That wasn't my company. I just designed the website. But yeah, I have his book bag.
That's crazy. Small world. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. But
well, man, Milan, I'll tell you what, man, we just appreciate you coming on and telling some of your story tonight and going back down memory lane with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. But Cliff, anything else before we hop off for the night?
Man, I'll see you every other Friday with my daughter.
Yeah, man, I appreciate y'all's business.
Yeah, I come in there. I eat Chick-fil-A every day because I work there, but I'll come down there with her all day long.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, I just appreciate you coming on and being willing to come on here and talk about it, because that's awesome, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank y'all for having me, and look forward to doing it again. Maybe I'll see y'all in Atlanta at the game.
Yeah. Heck yeah, absolutely. We'll
definitely. Be yeah, we'll be in the press box. I'll be in the press box.
10-7 this time. We're winning this time.
Man, I mean, good. I don't think I can take it. The last game we were in Charlotte. I'll tell you a funny story. We got a box. My family and a Chick-fil-A buddy of mine, and so my parents and my uncle were there. So I'm sitting in the box, and it's like me and him sitting next to each other, and he's in a Georgia shirt, and I'm in Clemson stuff, and it's just so funny because we're going back and forth, and they end up winning, and so we got to do better, man. I don't think I can take it.
No, definitely not. But yeah, man.
Well, everybody,
we just really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah,
thanks
likewise,
so much, man.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And everybody that's tuning in, watching, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Around the Paw as much as we have talking with Milan. Again, Milan, thank you so much. And this has just been an absolute blast, and you're welcome back anytime. So again, from myself and Clifton and Griffin, who couldn't be here tonight, but thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much.
All right, well,
that's going to do it for us. But as always, we sign off, and I think it's one of the most important things we say. We say it every week. It's a great day to be a Clemson Tiger. So for Garrett Mitchell, Clifton Kennedy, and Milan Richard, we're signing off, as always, saying, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.